Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Pleasure to be here.
Sorry, do we need anything to note down? Or
No. Just, yeah. Really great pleasure to be here at CSOYW University. Thank you, Sriram, for organizing.
Our pleasure.
He sent around the poster so you all kind of know a little bit about me. I've been involved with Maharshi's Transcendental meditation for over 50 years. I learned in 1973 when I was a student. So now you're thinking, how old is this guy? I'm 71. I'm 71. I learned when I was a student, a 20-year-old student. And it changed my life. It was so amazing, that experience. Those kind of meditations at that time were very popular. It was sort of, in America especially, there was a lot of interest in this. And someone told me about it and was like, I want that. He said, everything really is just energy, and that energy is the same as your energy, and it's all one. And if you want to experience that, you should practice transcendental meditation. That's what will give you the experience. And you can enliven that in yourself and live that connection with everything. And I was like, yes, that's what I'm looking for. And you know, from the moment I opened the door for my initiation, it was just like gold light poured on me. It was just, I felt so transformed. And the experience really made a difference in very practically in how I was living my life. Just, it made it so easy to study and just not feel irritable. I said there should be a law that every student must learn this. It was just so, clear to me, the value. And eventually I was able to study with Maharshiji himself. In 1975, I attended my teacher training program that was held in Switzerland. And I had many other opportunities to be with Maharshi, who brought up this meditation to the world starting in the 50s. And he completely gave credit to his master, who was the Shankaracharya of Jyotirmad, his Swami Ramananda Saraswati. And so this is knowledge from the ancient Vedic tradition of Ved Bhumi Bharat here, which I'm very happy to be in. And I really give your tradition and your beautiful land. And it's such an honor for me, kind of unusual for a Westerner to come back and bring this home to you. But it's my great honor to do that. So, you know, really well studied, well researched, and really practiced. And, you know, we say in a way that practicing transcendental meditation is like doing something very basic. Transcendental means transcending, means going beyond. And what we're transcending in meditation is thought, going beyond the activity of thought. And if we could go beyond the activity of thought, what happens is at the source of thought is an unbounded reservoir of energy, intelligence, and happiness. It's like if we look at nature, we see intelligence exploding everywhere. Intelligence is just immense everywhere we look. And yet, somehow, we are still suffering and having problems. The more of some law of nature that we use, we find we're violating other laws of nature, and new discoveries, new problems kind of have gone on with development. It's very difficult to know all the laws of nature. When we violate a law of nature, it creates a ground for sickness, suffering, unhappiness in life. It's very difficult to know all the laws of nature, but it's very easy to become the home of all the laws of nature, to gain that experience in ourselves. And the natural result of that experience is we start to, without trying, spontaneously think and act in such a way that we're creating less problems for ourselves, making less mistakes, acting more in accord with natural law. in a very spontaneous way. It's not something, oh, now I'm meditating, I must eat better, I must be nicer to my friends or something. It's not a mood-making thing. The meditation itself is not a mood-making thing. We're going to talk about that in a minute. It's not something that we're trying to coerce ourselves or convince ourselves we should get relaxed or settle down or something. It's not, we're not forcing anything. We're using our own natural impulse in this meditation. And that's what makes it so profound, so basic. It's sort of to me, it's like the user manual to the human nervous system. She said, as long as there's been human beings on earth, this knowledge of transcending, this knowledge of effortless technique of gaining that experience of our own full potential, which the Vedas just expound. It's been there, it's there, but somehow in modern times it's become lost. And it's so beautiful going around India. I've been involved for a number of months, a couple months here so far. And there's a big project going on. We're teaching in different schools, colleges, and I'll be in a class with these kids, these fidgety, 13-year-olds, and okay, how many have this experience? And they all raise their hand, that they're having that experience of samadhi in meditation. I'm like, do you know that this is considered very difficult by most people, but most scholars, oh, this is something that takes years to achieve. And you're just kids and you're experiencing this because it's so easy and effortless. So Maharshi is the one that has brought out the meditation. And when I learned meditation, there was on the poster that for the lecture, there was a picture of Maharshiji. And so it was kind of embarrassing when I saw the poster and there was my picture. No, it should be Maharshi in that picture. But anyway, so this meditation, let me see. Welcome. I'm going back to see if this is going backward here. So all these different things, it's something, I think I've been saying about this. It's easy, effortless, easy to learn. It requires no belief. You don't even have to believe it's going to work. If you just do the technique, it happens. It's like, as I was saying, a very basic thing, like if you take a tree and there's so many issues with the tree, the leaves are dirty and whatever, they're shriveling up here, the bark is not good, whatever. If you're trying to fix it by saying, oh, well, we'll clean the leaves and we'll try to coat the bark or something. But if you just water the root of the tree, you become the most basic nourishment at the most basic element of the tree, the whole thing flourishes. That's what this meditation is. It's like it's watering our root. And on the basis of that, it doesn't matter why we water the root. Maybe we need the bucket for some other reason. We just dump out the water and go. It doesn't matter as long as the water goes to the root. So we have this experience. It doesn't really matter what our reason. Maybe we want to sleep better at night. Maybe we want to feel more, energetic during the day. Maybe we want to achieve God consciousness, unity consciousness, full enlightenment, the whole knowledge that the Vedic yoga tradition has brought us. This is the technology for that. But no matter what, if we're on that path, by practicing this, we're no matter why, watering the root, we're going to enjoy the fruit. So let's look at some of the, keep these little, is that showing? No, I can do it here. So, this meditation has been, very, popular in the West, and for many years, millions of people have learned it around the world. And it's taught in a very systematic way, but it's also very well researched. Actually, the most comprehensively researched technique of human development. There's been over 600 studies published in scientific journals around the world over the past 50 plus years. And we're going to go over some of that research. That's why I wanted to have the little PPT today to show you some of that. So we're going to talk about here today, we're going to talk about the benefits of the meditation, briefly. Then we're going to talk about what this little, what is actually the thing that you learn, and how does it differ from other kinds of meditation. And then we'll have a form out for interview, and I'll interview each of you who would like to learn, and then we'll make an appointment for tomorrow. And I'll go over the course a little bit later, but tomorrow will be personal instruction when you'll come, and then the next 3 days we'll meet, and we'll talk about timings, because I know some people are going to be challenged coming early, and some people need to be early, so we'll be flexible. Anyway, so as I was saying, this whole process is allowing the mind to settle down to the source of thought, the most settled state of our own mind. And we say that it is that unified field of all the laws of nature that actually physics has talked about. That, there's four main in physics found is that these forces are actually expressions of more unified. And finally, the particle physics is finding the reality that Einstein knew was there and spent the later part of his years looking towards, that one unified level of life that gives rise to all the activity, the whole universe. And that same unified field, which interacts within itself, is consciousness. It's our own consciousness is not separate from that. So this is connection with everything is from that level. And so, as I said, there's many research studies validating the benefits, and we're going to go into some benefits now. First, and published in reputable journals around the world. These are some American journals, but one thing, what we find is, what we say is, ordinarily we use a very small part of our brain. Brain is one thing, mind is another. Let's just talk about mind first, actually. We use a small part of our mind. Scientists say maybe 5 or 10% of our mind is of our potential we're using. What we find is ordinarily when we, without meditation, when there's like a stimulus, there's a certain level of our brain that gets activated or for some task or something. There's a certain amount of our brain that's actually getting utilized. And what we find is that after practicing this transcendental meditation, there's more of the brain being utilized during that time. So this is a kind of a simple summary of some very detailed scientific studies that were done in this field. So this indicating that we're using more of our brain functioning, we're using more of our potential. Well, what's the practical experience of that? Clearer thinking. Busy people often say, this sounds really good, but I would never have time to do it, I'm so busy. But what they find is investing that 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, gives them an hour, 2 hours in greater efficiency. Because when your mind is clear, when your mind is fresh, you can just, and then it's done, instead of, that took you all day to fix that problem that you didn't foresee. And so it becomes something that becomes a great priority in our life to just, we want the arrow to go forward and hit the target. But what we do is, before we let it go, we bring it in the opposite direction of the target. Why would I go why would I rest when I want to be more active? We bring it in the opposite direction, but then the bow has given it a great potential energy, and from there it really flies forward and hits the target. What we find, this is, we have some really nice equipment that we were using in the schools, and we're actually hooking up the kids and showing them these things. But ordinarily, with eyes open, what these little squiggles on this show is different points on, this is a different kind of study showing electrical, EEG, electroencephalographic readout. And so these different points are where on the scalp where the electrodes are placed. And what we find is these lines indicate correlation between activity in one part and the other part of the brain. And ordinarily, with our eyes open, just looking around, there's not a lot of correlation between the different parts of our brain. Our brain is just kind of scattered everywhere. And when we close our eyes, just even without meditation, we find that there's more connectivity, some connectivity among different parts of the brain. During the practice of transcendental meditation, this connectivity becomes very extreme. And so what this is indicating, this EEG coherence, it has been, research has shown that people who have higher EEG coherence have many other correlations. That EEG coherence is correlated with more reasoning, creativity, enlightenment, decreased anxiety, muscular efficiency, intelligence, emotional stability. All these nice things are associated with that experience of broad brain functioning, of that coherent brain, orderly brain functioning that happens with this meditation. So it's not surprising. Ordinarily, we find that most adults don't change their IQ level after early adulthood. And yet it has been seen to change in people. A few points, significant enough to notice on the test. Measures of creativity increase through the meditation. Am I blocking it here for you? Sorry. Maybe I should even sit while I show these slides so you can.
Shall I just help you to?
You know, I have a mouse here. Let me just use that. Let's see if that works. Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're talking about stress, because a lot of, you know, and again, this is a very valid reason to practice transcendental meditation, because what happens is stress is something that completely debilitates the brain. On one hand, we were looking at the brain functioning more coherently, all as a whole. Under stress, the whole prefrontal cortex becomes less engaged. And that's why we make poor decisions when we're under stress. And so what happens is, as these connections come up, we find that it carries over into activity, and we find that we're not overcome by stress.
And what is it, PFCX?
Say it again? Oh, that's prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
This part of the brain, the frontal part of the brain, and that, so here's the eyes here, so you'd be, you know, like what's behind your forehead.
Yeah.
That part of the brain is like the CEO. Makes the executive decisions. And that part of the brain is inhibited when under stress. And so just quicker recovery from stress through TM, and this is just simple galvanic skin response, actually quite an old study. I think they showed this study when I learned. And I had just taken psychology class, and I'm like, oh, I learned all about GSR. And it's like, oh, that's so interesting. And anyway. Now, what we find is, of course, it's a mental technique. We're not trying to relax ourselves, but as our mind is naturally drawn to that settled state of awareness, the body just settles down. And it can be actually measured in many ways that the state of rest we gain during meditation is deeper than during deep sleep. Now, after a really good night's sleep, we wake up, we're rested and fresh, the whole day goes easy. Versus a day when we didn't have a very good night's sleep, and kind of everything drags a little bit. So it's that restedness, that freshness. If we can have that with us more and more, life's going to improve. But it's also, you know, it's the restfulness, good morning. It's the restfulness that allows our body to repair the damage that's been incurred during the day. So if we have a very stressful day, a very, you know, taxing day, when we go to sleep at night, our body repairs that damage that has done to us. But there generally is something that's not repaired, that builds up over time, that stress and strain. And again, that's a precursor of most illnesses and you know, mental and physical illnesses. All that damage that is not repaired in a night's sleep. So how do we get rid of that damage? Here we have an opportunity to give ourselves a state of rest deeper than sleep, which allows the body to get rid of that deeper damage that sleep has not repaired. And so, you know, and this can be measured. So, and this is, you know, many, many studies. And so, it's not surprising then that this technique is so effective at reducing anxiety. You know, and this is really a very large study, meta-analysis of, this is a combination of 146 studies, comparing this particular meditation with other types of meditation, and very significant difference. This is a more recent study showing the difference in emotional exhaustion, and the purple is the control group, and what they found is the change in, over time, of you know, some reported emotional exhaustion becomes less. And this is a big thing in the US, I'm sure here in India, but this is, you know, burnout, and there becomes, in America there's this whole thing called quiet quitting. Saying, I'm just not going to try anymore, I'm going to just go through the motions because I'm just had it. And what a terrible way to live life, you know. And so here's a way to really rise above that. Anxiety, another measure of anxiety. This was done in healthcare workers who were very stressed during COVID time and haven't quite recovered. But we have a whole program for targeting these, you know, healthcare people. This is, you know, something that shows, you know, you can actually measure biological age by a specific thing like near point vision. I forget all of them. There's a specific thing where you can say, okay, here's your biological age, and it may or may not correspond to your chronological age. Like Sri Ramji looks like he's 30 and he's not. So what they found was the longer the person practices this meditation, the greater the gap between their biological age and their chronological age. So very significant effect on health, very mental and physical health. And what we find is, you know, when, you know, it really does affect our interpersonal relationships as well. Something that, you know, when you have that easiness, naturally you just see more beauty, more truth in the situation. You have a broader perspective, and so the whole, like we say, growth of tolerance. You know, you can put up with things. You know, these things they come in families. You know, where, oh, I don't speak to my sister for 25 years. You know, no, and then I remember shortly after I learned this meditation, something, I won't go into details, but something came up, and it would have been like that. I'm not going to speak to her again, kind of thing. You know, and then I just settled down after meditation one day, and I was like, don't make a big deal about it. It's not that big a deal, you know. And just to be able to have something roll off you like that, what a value that is for your relationships. And she was my closest, you know, person in my life. You know, I mean, not in one of my closest people in my life. You know, and so thank God, you know, I was able to just let that go. You know, and so, yeah. So a very significant, you know, benefit from that, and just a growth of appreciation of others. And, you know, they try to measure these things, you know, as much as possible, however. Now, you know, we often say, you know, that we don't have the right to have a bad day, to feel negative and upset, because we're always giving. Our influence is always radiating in the environment. And if we're radiating a stressed influence, that stress builds up in the environment, and these things break out as wars, as crime, as negative occurrences on a macro level. And what we find is, by this meditation, by bringing the mind to that most orderly state, where the brain is most orderly, that most settled, powerful level of life, that's somehow shared. We all have our individual awareness, our own thoughts. But at the basis of our thoughts, at the source of thought, we're all connected. And if somehow we're waking up the source of thought in us, it gets woken up in the whole environment. And even those who aren't meditating, even those who are you know, never consider anything, but just living in the vicinity, are affected. that naturally all the thinking is a little more bright and positive. We did studies back in the 70s, and it was, because in the States it became so popular, there were actually cities that were 1% of the people were doing this transcendental meditation. And Maharshi said, that's enough to actually influence the whole society. Let's measure it. And they did some studies, and they found when they looked at those cities compared to control cities, so matched for similar demographics, crime rate was significantly lower. Accidents were less. It was like, it seems so unusual. But when you think about it, it's not really that unusual. We can really affect the world. And frankly, that's why I'm here today, because I just didn't like reading the news anymore about all these problems all over, Ukraine or Israel or politics here and there, and crazy. And, sometimes I thought, if I could just have anything, I read the paper and I go, oh, if I could have anything, I'd make this politician this, or I would have Israel change this. And I realized, no, that's not going to fix it. Maybe that'll fix that issue, but the problem underneath is there. The stress of the incoherence in collective consciousness is there, and these problems will just bubble up in different ways. What we need is some basic level to change the whole collective consciousness. And there's an advanced meditation program, which I'm not going to go into now, but even more powerful. We say instead of the 1%, we need just the square root of 1% of the people doing in one place. If you take the whole world, the square root of 1% is about 9,000. We're gathering 10,000 of these advanced meditation practitioners in Hyderabad in 2 weeks for first 2 weeks of January, with the idea of to create that influence in the world. And we've done it before. We had a big session in Washington, D.C. in 1994 or 3. I was there. And we had a press conference before, and we said, we predict we're going to lower the crime rate in Washington, which is terrible to say. It's a beautiful city, but it's really like the murder capital of the world, You know about it? You've been there? Yeah. It was a beautiful city, but it's a lot of crime. And the police chief came and he said, there's no way you're going to lower crime. He said, especially in the summer, it's more hot, the people kill them, shoot each other more. And we had University of Maryland people that studying, help us looking at all the demographics. And what we found was, during that time, those people gathering to do this group meditation practice, crime rate went down during those 6 weeks, 23%. At the end of the thing, we had a big press conference. The police chief was there, and he said, please don't go. He said, I know this was you, because there's no way this would happen. And actually, these journals of conflict resolution, and they're like, this is too crazy for them. They don't want to talk about this kind of thing. But the research was so compelling. The statistical significance of this effect was so, and we had predicted ahead of time, was so compelling. They published the paper, and it's not a matter of convincing people. It's a matter of creating this effect. And so our task now is to create these permanent groups practicing this advanced meditation technology, so that this is a permanent thing. So we don't all just go home after Hyderabad and then everything's bad again. We wanted permanent groups. And so when they said, John, well, you want to come and help with this? Well, that's what we're doing. We're teaching in schools. We're trying to get these kids doing that. And the first time I talked to you, we were just doing the instruction there, and these kids are doing it, and they're really loving it. It's really transforming them. But this is the basis of to me, this is what's going to do it for us. So anyway, that's why I'm here. So I happen to be sharing with you just in the meantime. So, all right. So enough about the benefits of this meditation. And what I want to do now is talk a little, so we had talked about this, watering the root to enjoy the fruit, and that a basic operation we're doing. And so now I want to focus a little bit more on how this meditation works and how it differs from other kinds of meditation. Good morning. So we use an analogy for the mind, that the mind is kind of like the ocean. Consider this as the ocean. And on the surface of the ocean is very wavy, the waves are big. But the deeper you go in the ocean, the less active it is. Huh? It's more and more quiet. Now, my wife and I had a chance to go to Cayman Islands several years ago, which is some islands off of the American. And when you go snorkeling, and you could see down like 20, like 10 meters or something, whatever. And what you could see is, many times there'd be like a little animal down at the bottom of the ocean, and some little air coming out. I don't know, some snail or something, and the little bubbles coming. And as they come, they get bigger and bigger as they rise. And this is just simple physics, because the pressure of the weight of the water is less and less, and so the bubbles expand. And so, but when you look at it, it looks exactly like this. We've been using this analogy all so many years, and it's like, oh, that's a real thing. And so this is an analogy to the bubble coming out from the bottom of the ocean. Is an analogy to thought coming from the source of thought. Deep inside the mind is a field, we say, pure consciousness, that unified level of natural law that connects everything. From that level, we project thought. And we don't ordinarily experience there. We only experience thought ordinarily as it kind of bursts on the surface thinking level of the mind, the top active 5 or 10% of our mind that we ordinarily use. But a thought has had all these finer stages of development. We just haven't experienced them. And so what happens during transcendental meditation is the conscious mind begins to experience thought at a finer and finer, subtler state of development. And the finest state of thought is transcended or gone beyond. And the mind comes to that source of thought, pure consciousness. The state of samadhi, that, according to Yoga Sutras. And from the state of Satchitananda. So this is what happens. And how does it happen? It happens in a systematic way. The mind goes from an active level to less and less active level. Why would that happen? We say, the other way that happens, it goes in a way. It doesn't, we're not pushing the mind there. Because when you think about it, if you're doing some effort to push, that means there's more activity. And to allow the mind to experience this, by definition, there's less activity. The mind has to be less and less active in order to experience that. If we're activating the mind to become less active, it's a headache, and you're going to be at the state of most meditation experiences. And so what we use to allow the mind to experience finer and finer states of the thought is we use the nature of the mind itself. This is actually a very important point. What is the nature of our mind? If we're doing something like whatever, like we're listening to some speech and it's very interesting, but all of a sudden something over here happens and it's more interesting. A monkey comes on there or something, Then what happens is, in class, that happens, right? Suddenly everyone's attention just goes there. Now, did you have to tell yourself, oh, I think instead of listening to the professor, I'll go look at the monkey? There was no thought about it. It just, when something a little nicer in the neighborhood, you go for it. And you're looking at the monkey and suddenly something really interesting happening in the hall, your best music or something. Immediately you go for that. The mind will keep going from place to place according to its desire for always going for something better, to improve, to expand, to feel happier, to feel better. So by nature, our mind goes to a field of greater happiness. At the source of thought, this pure consciousness, Satchit Ananda, Ananda, bliss, is the nature of that inner intelligence inside of us. And so it doesn't require any effort to bring the mind to that, because the closer the mind comes to it, the more and more charming it is, the more nicer it is. And so what we learn in Transcendental Meditation, what we do is, we give the mind some thought so that it has a medium to be able to experience thought on a finer level. The thought that we use in meditation is just a sound. It's a mental experience, a mental repetition of a sound. And the sound we use is called a mantra. And it's very famous. And even, Maharshi is teaching a meditation, it's like, oh, my mantra for this is like, it became like a popular term in the English language based on this whole teaching of Maharshiji. But a mantra is simply the way we define it is a sound whose effects are known. Because it's important we have the suitable vehicle that the mind uses, because as the mind comes to finer and finer states, it's more and more powerful. It's like at the deeper level, the atomic level is much more powerful than molecular level. And so that's important that the suitable influence is there from that sound. And so we select the sound. The teacher has been trained by Maharshi to select the right sound. There's different sounds for different people. And there's a very systematic way that we determine this, that we are happy to share with everyone who wants to take the full teacher training program so that they use that knowledge properly. Yeah. Oh, tea. Yeah, I'm stimulated enough. I don't need the tea, but thank you. So the point here is that, okay, so how does the mind, what do we use in Transcendental Meditation? We give the mind a sound so that it can experience thought on a finer and finer level. And then we give it the technique for allowing the mind to do that. So when you learn tomorrow, those are the two things you'll learn. But I want to, before we get to that, we talked about the natural tendency of the mind to go to a field of greater charm. And then we want to compare this meditation to other kinds of meditation. One kind of meditation we can describe as contemplation. That means having some idea of something, exploring an idea, like, fellowship of man, or, God, thought of God, which is beautiful. These are very enriching, valuable things to do, but they have a different effect than this transcending. They allow one to explore things from whatever level of awareness we have. We're exploring, but what's in some way, we're using that 5 or 10% of the active level of our mind that we ordinarily use. By contemplating something, it's kind of like swimming all around the surface of the pond, of the ocean. But it doesn't, the meaning of what we're contemplating, by going from meaning to meaning, it keeps the mind engaged on the level of thinking that we ordinarily are always on. So we might realize some new truths, but it would be a kind of a rare, it would be by mistake we might happen to settle down, but it's not part of the technique to allow the mind to come, that inner quiet, inner source of thought from practicing contemplation. The other technique we call concentration, means give the mind something to focus on, like some thought of something, or like a candle or something. Hold the mind there. And if the mind goes, and kind of whip it and come back to that point, kind of hold it. Like it's a forcing kind of thing, to hold the mind there. And I think, the whole idea behind it is, when that source of thought is experienced, the mind naturally can focus, can hold on one point, because it can settle down in that experience in a very natural way. The mind becomes very focused. Ability to focus improves immensely from this experience. But as a technique to develop that, it's actually very lacking. And that's why people practicing this concentration say, oh, it takes many, many years of hard work in order to achieve this experience that we gain in the first sitting of Transcendental meditation. Because when we hold the mind, that's where our mind is functioning on the active level. And if the mind moves away, so no, come back here. If the mind even moves here, no, come back here. And so it disallows that natural process. And so tomorrow when you come to learn, we'll teach you this. We'll give you the mantra and then the technique of how to use it so your mind can remain lively but undirected, so it can take its own direction, and with that it begin to experience finer and finer level and ultimate that source of thought. Just dipping in, just even for a couple seconds, that freshness would come out feeling more alert and worries less and all that. So, any questions? Yeah.
Madam, this is the part where, yeah, I can hear you. So, in order to, practice transcendental meditation, would you require a practice or knowledge or some experience with other forms of meditation? Would you require just straight up?
Not required.
Not required.
As a matter of fact, sometimes it's preferred, just because sometimes, especially people who are very proficient and really used to holding their mind in one place, to be able to let go, you have to kind of unlearn your habits or something. Okay. But even if you have those habits, you can unlearn them, and we'll work with you. Anyone can learn it. But we teach 10-year-olds, and they're like, they're off. All it requires is the ability to think a thought. Because if you can think a thought, means your mind can be active with that thought. The ability to be active implies you have the ability to be less active. It's there. Like if you can run, you certainly can walk. You can stand still. Good question. Anyone else? All right, so let's talk about some practical points about the class itself. I know you're all busy people. You all have your duties, and this is, okay, we already talked about this. Okay, this class itself. So from here, there's 4 days of action. And the first day, tomorrow, would be one by one. So I'd meet each of you, we'd make an appointment for you to come, and then you have, so it's personal one by one. The next 3 days will be group sessions. And if we can agree on a time that it would be convenient for everyone, we'll just do once. But I'm certainly willing to do more than one time if half the group would like to meet early because of duties, and the other half would like to meet later in the day or even in the early evening or something. I'm very flexible. I've come here for you. And so, so we could have 2 sessions or even 3 on some days if necessary. But that's not a problem. But it is important that you commit to all 4 days. That's our main commitment here, is that you have that you take the time to complete the course if you actually go ahead and have the instruction. Ordinarily, we have we also mention, this is not just so you know, we have a requirement for people who like to experiment with like recreational drugs or something, that they must not use those for at least 15 days prior, because they can influence the subtle aspect of our thinking process, and we want that as clean as possible when we learn. But anyways, that is another requirement. But this course is being sponsored by our organization as part of our whole campaign for, creating world peace. It's been a big kind of global effort. So you're in the right place at the right time here to get this. So I'm happy to facilitate it for you. So we can talk about that for a minute. How many? Mom, you were saying you most days, well, you have this conference for a couple of days, but usually you prefer the early. The timing is, like 7:30, starting from 7:30 until 8:30 to 9. Yeah, would work.
But I
So,
think some people are
so for how many would, how many is, yeah. So how many prefer a different time?
8 o'clock is.
8 is okay. Like 8 is fine.
8 is okay, but 7:30 is too early?
Little bit.
Now, what we could do is, you know, if you need to leave by 9, we could just make it very efficient. You know, sometimes it, you know, I could do it in 1 hour or in 90 minutes. It depends. You know, we can make it more efficient.
So who is not able to come? 7:30 we all came actually. Apart from when you had.
It's really difficult. You know, what we could do is have a 7:30 session and then later in the day session if you'd like. And just name a time that would work, and then we can.
7:30 to 9 ho jayega. See, generally what happens, 60 minutes will go up to 90 minutes because people come late. So I think 7:30 is the right time, provided we can have another group also. But I think see, the earlier we start, the better it is because it's meditation exercise.
Well, here's the thing, Shriram. Here's the thing. Let me mention one thing also. Just keep this in mind. Once we teach you this meditation, then we're not just teaching you a technique, but we, as part of the course, this is a technique you do twice a day in your own life, and it's very important that from the start you actually do it on your own, because it's based on your experience at home doing your meditation that these sessions continue. So it's not, the reason they're consecutive days is because, okay, now after your first day of instruction, then that evening you'll meditate 20 minutes. And ideally the next morning before class, if possible. Now that might be trouble for most people, and so, you know, we'll meditate also in the class. But if it's later, you know, if we have 11 o'clock session, that might give you time at home to do meditation also before that class. So, you know, let's not be too early thing for everyone, is what I'm saying, okay? Because there is an advantage even to the student to be able to get that morning meditation in on their own. And so, but we'll be doing it twice a day. And then hopefully you'll see the value of that routine, and that'll be something you can continue, you know. But that's why we're kind of a little hand-holding here for 4 days while you get that habit and see, oh yeah, and you'll hear the feedback from everyone and different experiences. It's really important, you know, because very small little things, and if we get off a little way, and then it's like, oh, I stopped doing it, and it's like, well, yeah, but you weren't doing it right anyway. That's no wonder you stopped, you know. So it's like it's a very simple, natural thing, but we're so used to applying ourselves. We're so used to working hard to achieve something, and this is no effort involved, and so it almost takes some conscious, you know, looking at, you know, the experience to make sure that we maintain that effortlessness. So, anyway, back to the point. So we will have a session at 7:30. Just name another time that would be convenient, and then see how many people. I mean, are you free later in the morning, or I mean, it would be better in the evening, or what? I'm staying nearby, so it's not a problem for me.
7:30. So tomorrow is a one-to-one session.
Tomorrow's different. We'll schedule you out throughout the day.
Anyone who can come. So we figured out like who's available when, and then share it.
Tomorrow's no problem. That's not what I'm speaking about tomorrow. I'm speaking about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those 3 sessions. So clearly, madam, we don't want you to have to get up at 4 a.m. to come here and, you know, take your Uber at 5:30 and all that. That's too much. So what time is convenient for you?
8:30 is okay. Like 8 is negotiable because we generally reach college by 8. So we know the trains that are.
Oh.
In the morning we don't have trains.
So the frequency of trains increase.
Half an hour, every half an hour I have a train.
One way, no?
All right. In that case, Shubhra, I think say 8. We'll do it 8 to 9. We'll finish it so that if someone needs to go by 9, then we can. And then those who have time can stay a little longer if we're still having a discussion.
8 is okay because already
You're already here?
Good.
We have some programs at 10 o'clock.
7:30 and then people come at 8 o'clock.
Fine.
We'll have to start by whatever 7:55.
But please do come sharp that way. Otherwise, it'll be difficult. And if those who can't come,
people coming in, coming out, everyone should be in by 7:45.
and there's there is a little experience form that we have you fill out each day. So if you can come just a couple minutes early to fill out that form so we can actually start our discussion at 8. We should easily finish most days by 9. And if it goes a little over, if you can stay. But you'll have if you must go back to work by 9, then fine. You know, we can catch you up on it if we miss some point. So that'll be easy. So it'll be all one session then starting at 8. Okay? Okay, and now, last thing I want to say is, this is a picture of Maharshi's master. We call him Gurudev. This is Swami Brahmananda Saraswati. Hello. He was the Jagat Guru Bhagwan Shankaracharya of Jyotirmath in the Himalayas. And Maharshi studied with him for many years. And Maharshi credits him with the whole revival of knowledge that has brought transcendental meditation to the world. And so we teach in the name of the ancient Vedic tradition that has brought this knowledge to us. And so before we actually instruct you tomorrow when you come, we'll first perform a short, what we call ceremony of gratitude. In Hindi we call it Guru Puja. But it's a short ceremony. We have there the photo of Gurudev, who's up here now. And he's representative of that ancient tradition, the Guru Parampara, the ancient tradition starting Narayana, Padma Bhavam, Vishishtam, Shaktim, going all the way down to present time. And so what it does is, this is for the teacher to prepare himself to teach. It takes the teacher out of his local awareness and places him on that high level of teachership from where then he'd select the mantra and instruct its proper use. So when you come tomorrow, we'll first perform for each of you this ceremony of gratitude. And it's traditional, the student brings a few things for this. 2 or 3 pieces of fruit, maybe 6 flowers. Now, it's possible, and where's Suresh, is he gone? Because maybe he could be the man to kind of, instead of, we don't have to make this a shopping thing, everybody has to go shopping and find this. That's not easy. But I think, so maybe we'll talk to Suresh and he can help supply flowers and fruit for everyone. And usually we ask them to bring some little cloth. But also, I have something, we'll just use thread for that offering. But okay, so we'll have fruit and flowers available for everyone. I don't think you have to all go shopping, but usually that'll be provided to you as your, offering. So student brings that, and then we have that little ceremony, and then after that, I instruct you, give you a mantra, and explain how to use it, and you have your experience of meditation. Is that okay? Okay. So that's all I have to say.
One request, if you can, for the takeaway, we want some takeaway for the day.
Yeah.
Or an assignment which we need to refer to be more prepared for tomorrow. So can you suggest some readings or some mantras which we can go through?
If you're interested, if you want to think more about this meditation, I would just simply, as far as mantras and all that is so much richer once we're functioning from that deep awareness. Every religious tradition, it's that at the basis is that deep inner silence that connects everything. That's our connection to ourself, and that's the connection with God. And when we have that, all those readings, all that activity is so enriched after we experience the meditation. So we don't need to do something like that to prepare for this experience. I think be well rested. So don't stay up very late tonight and all that. Be well rested and fresh. You should clean, rested, fresh, and not have eaten for at least 2 hours, a big meal for 2 hours prior to your instruction. And because more digestion activity will kind of increase activity in the mind. So we want to have the best start as possible. So better, if you're scheduled around lunchtime and you're so hungry, maybe have a snack a little later in the morning, or if you're so hungry, then have a little banana first. It's not like absolute you must fast. It's just you don't want to have a full meal that you're digesting all the chapatis and the dal and all that while you're meditating.
Are we going to do it here itself?
Yeah, good question.
So we have the
Yoga studio.
In
You
the,
have to sit on the ground?
no,
on
no.
mat?
What we do is, the instruction for our meditation is we sit comfortably. And so we'll have just chairs that we sit. So actually I prefer tomorrow just a smaller room, like an office-sized room. But we can use whatever. It's just that it'll be private, and as long as it's not disturbed, it's quiet
So we
and
can
private.
have chairs there as well, or
Fine.
we have mats as well, so whatever works.
No, I
It's a
think,
studio, yoga studio room specially made for yoga.
fine, well then we should warm it up.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll have a cabin for you. So it's just a smaller office.
Well, we can, I don't mind doing it in the yoga studio. It'll create the nice atmosphere in there. So, but we'll set it out. For now, just come to that place, but don't walk in. Just wait in the hallway. We'll just see. The main thing is it's private. That if we're instructing someone, we don't want everybody out, disturbing. So
We can
just
see
be
that
quiet.
place and let
Yeah,
us.
so
We'll
it's
look
for
at it.
90 minutes tomorrow?
No, it won't be 90 minutes. You'll come. You'll leave about an hour free, but you'll come every 45 minutes. I'll have you come.
So then we
Maybe
schedule
45
accordingly.
minutes, 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
Schedule accordingly.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
have continuous slots.
Yeah, and what we'll do is, now I have a little interview form for you to complete, and then once you complete that form, then you'll speak with me, and then we'll set up a schedule for you
Yeah.
from there, and then you'll all have your appointment. Maybe you could just pass some of these down. Yeah, it's more than needed here, but I have some pens in case someone needs.
And whatever attire, can we wear any outfit?
Just be comfortable. I mean, whatever you feel is appropriate. So it's no requirement. If anyone needs a pen, I have. Sure, no, of course, that's fine. I have one here.
Thanks.
Sure. There's more I have?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. That's,
No, my train will be there.
here, you need something to write on, you can, on my little folder here.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And the top part, actually, just, start with question 3. Don't worry about the rest of that. Start with question 3.
You can put the spelling of your name.
Yeah,
Okay, you all have this?
So name of the teacher is here.
that's, yeah, don't worry about all that. Just start with question. No, yeah, that's, I know, this form
You
is,
have already become, you are enlightened, transcended already.
no, this,
Your consciousness.
don't worry about all that. Just start with question 3, okay? Don't mind. We'll change all that later. It doesn't matter.
Do you need the full address, the home address, or just cities?
It doesn't matter, really, I think, at this point. But do put on your email address if you would, and your phone number, and then that way we can reach you if we need
Place
to.
of his tuition actually is your place of his tuition where you are training people, but HSNC University is what we are doing.
HMS, yeah. You need a pen also, sir? That's all I brought, sorry.
Then
Yeah, he'll be, yeah. When you finish, then let's see. Let's bring, would you mind shifting to that chair there? Yeah. Okay, I'll take the pen. Oh, no, you can take the, I need the pen, no, sorry, you gotta wait for a different one.
Sorry.
There's some pen. Kia Tawani. Okay, good. And oh, there's one more point I just want to mention to everyone. There's a little agreement on the back of here. And what it talks about that you promise you're not going to teach this meditation to other people unless you're actually trained properly to do so. And we do that because this is such a valuable thing. We don't just, oh, that's good enough, I know enough. And it's like, there's actually really important points about all this that we want people to have if they learn this meditation. So you must promise that you'll gain that full teacher training if you decide you would like to teach it. Huh? So, are you interested in learning this meditation with the group? Is that why you're here?
Yes.
Okay, you can fill out, I'll talk to you afterwards if you want, and I'll give you a form to complete. Oh, they're in here. You can start with question number 3. Okay. What time is convenient for you tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, 7:30.
7:30 is good, okay. Oh, I think Sri Ram we're going to do 7:30 actually, right? You want 7:30 tomorrow for you? Yeah.
7:30 to 8 will be on.
So yeah.
Today I'll come 8 to 8:30.
No, tomorrow.
I can come anytime before 9.
So 8 to 8:30, I'll take 7:30 to 8.
You take 7:30 to 8.
8 to 8:30.
Okay.
You still later take 7:30. That's okay.